Joining me is a proud Canadian, a guy that has made all sorts of news in the last number of years in MLS as a coach on the rise, a guy who I've known for 25 years, Nick Dasovic. Nick, welcome to Red Card, my friend.
Thank you. How you doing?
I couldn't be better, Nick. As I said to many of the people out there last night, telling them that you were going to join us, a lot of people were excited for you and Mark Watson, proud Canadians, and what you guys have done with San Jose. Let's talk about your team, Nick. I look at the veteran, John Bush, and this guy to me is a leader on your team. He is the glue, I believe, that really sets the tone for your team. Talk about John a bit.
Yeah, you know, John's a seasoned veteran. You know, he's a young 37 right now. So, and you'd think that he'd be slowing up, but he keeps getting better and better. He's the ultimate professional. You know, first in the training in the morning, last to go home. Continually works on his game, even like I said, at his ripe old age. And again, he just sets perfect examples for the players on and off the field. Real good person in the community as well. Like just fantastic human qualities, which is always a bonus when you have players at that level. So he really sets the tone for us as a team, and he's a great example, and it's a pleasure being around him.
Nick, a special player that you are getting to watch week in and week out in training and in games, Nick Dasovic. Talk about this youngster. He's really opened a lot of eyes all across MLS.
Yeah, you know, we had him out to train a while back, and we got to look at him, you know, and we've looked at some video of him, and we brought him over, and fantastic football. Unfortunately, he's had a little bit of injury issues off and on, but when he's fit and ready, he is easily amongst the best, one of the best players in MLS when he's on. He is a special little X factor, we call him. Good on the ball, moves well, and just an intelligent player. He came to the Sporting Lisbon affirmation, you know, the academy. So I think he played with Ronaldo next to him for many years, and he's like I said, he's had a really good he had a really good time with a professional kind of affirmation, and there you go. Only thing is we just got to keep him fit, and hopefully we can get him on the field more as we go forward.
Nick, what's working for your squad? If the regular fan out there looks at your squad, they don't see too many superstars like they see in other clubs around the league. It looks like to me a club that is bought into your system and Coach Watson's system. It looks like every guy comes to work when it's game time. What has worked for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. You know, you look at the club that first of all that Frank Yallop that he built that team, and obviously Mark's taken it on a little same kind of direction, but he's put his own little twist on things. But I think the one thing that remains the same is the consistency and the belief that we go to every game not just to compete but to win. And if you ever watch our training sessions, they get quite heated because guys are fighters. They don't like losing games. They fight for each other, and we have that ability to you know, never to quit till the final whistle, and it's actually quite impressive.
And that's enjoyable to hear what you just said, Nick, that they're competitive in training. They battle one another. When you hear a lot of teams that they're in the pro ranks, a lot of players are bored in training. They can't stand it. But what do you do, and what do Coach Watson do to make it different than maybe some other teams do to keep your players interested and excited and motivated to come train?
I mean, we always try to do different training methods, you know, just consistent with our model of play. But in saying that, you know, it's just the guys don't accept mediocrity when they train. They expect from each other, and they push each other. If someone sees someone's not doing right, they'll have a go. So it's not always that we have to bark and shout orders, because the best thing when you've got a good squad is they'll manage themselves on the field like that. And I think we've got a really good group of guys. We've got some really character players. When they speak, it really sends kind of signals to the other players. So that's kind of an easy part from a coach. You're not yelling consistently. They manage themselves, and once again, it's just it's a pleasure having that sort of work rate mentality. And that, you know, you want to call it a blue collar type of team, but we definitely are hard workers and grafters for sure.
Obviously, Nick, you and all the boys on the squad are excited for Chris Wondolowski making his way to the World Cup with Team USA. But to me, I don't think that's a surprise. You've seen this guy. All he does is score goals. All he does is compete. He's hungry. He's motivated. What did you guys have to say at the Chris when he got that announcement and made his way out there with Team USA?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, he could not stop smiling when he came in. We were all proud of him. It's a big feather in our cap as an organization to have, you know, someone involved in that final group of 23. And like, as you said, Chris Wondolowski deserves a chance. He is the hardest working player, And if you ask somebody, you know, what's special about him, what did you do, he scores goals. It's just quite simple, and you can't teach it. You know, you talk about the best goal scorers in history of whatever sport. They're just there at the right time, right place, and that's kind of what he's all about. And he is definitely one that does not like losing, and he's one of the biggest competitors we have on our team, for sure. So yeah, I'm really excited for him. You know, and I really hope he does gets a chance to play down in Brazil and gets to show what he can do.
Well, Nick, I'll tell you, I'm pretty sure a lot of U.S. fans are quite disappointed. I mean, I'm a little bit shocked, to be honest, that Clarence Goodson isn't part of this squad. This guy, to me, should have had a plane ticket, should have had a seat on to Brazil. Talk about this guy's character on and off the field. I've had an opportunity to meet him. And this guy, to me, is a hard knocks player.
Yeah, it's a really, really disappointing one, and you know, the ironic thing is when the, you know, that 23-man roster was about to be named, there was a big push in you know, in San Jose area to get one on that team, because everybody kind of took it for granted that he was going to make that final 23. So it was a shock to everybody, mostly to Clarence, and I really felt terrible for him, because if you look at the history of his games, whenever they needed a player or someone was injured and Clarence did stand in, he played in some of the biggest games for that team, and he did well. And to go through that, I think he played 7 or 8 games out of the last 2 qualifiers, and for him not to be on that final 23 is, I mean, it was very disappointing for him and for us as an organization. But, you know, at the end of the day, the coach has his ideas. He's got his own team selected, and you just have to, you don't have to agree with it, but you just have to move on. And we're happy that he's come back in, and he's got that fight he wants to prove people he's still a good player, and he's still working hard at training. And, so you know, so you don't know how you get players back sometimes to the mental state, but he's been 100% professional, and you know, we're happy to have him because he's playing with us, but we're also obviously disappointed he's not going to Brazil.
Well, I'm glad you brought up that mental aspect, Nick, because obviously you and head coach Mark Watson, when you found out the news that he wasn't part of the USA squad going forward, it had to be a challenge for you and Mark to really sit him down and make him focus the rest of the season with your club and put that behind him. How hard was that for you and Mark to have that chat with him, or did you have it?
Yeah, I think Mark sat him down, but I think the biggest thing is he's a professional and he gets it, and he just said, you know, I need a day or two to just get this out, and he trained, literally came back in, and one day when it was over, and sat out one day and then trained the next, and he was available for selection for the following game. So it didn't take long, and I think you know, it's just the best thing is, they say even things like the best thing when you lose a game is to have a game as quick as you can, so you get a chance to redeem yourself. And I think that was the same with Clarence. He had the bad news, but he just wanted to get back on the pitch and get back to what he loves to do. So it's just, again, it's a really terrible part of the process, and I'm sure it was a difficult decision for Jurgen, not just him, but Landon and a few other ones. So, but that's part of the job of being a head coach.
Nick, tough race right now in the Western Conference. You guys are sitting in 7th. LA Galaxy just ahead of you, and FC Dallas sitting in that last spot. Obviously this year, again, that Western Conference is deadly, where you see Portland struggling where they are. How important is it that you guys come into Toronto tomorrow, where it's going to be emotionally hard for you because you've had a special affinity for this city and also working in that franchise? How important is it that you guys focus in getting a result tomorrow or a point to take back home with you?
Like I said earlier, I think the biggest thing about our team is no matter where we go, the players, they won't accept anything else but going for a win. You know, whether it happens sometimes and not just the fact of it, but you know, we're a type of team that likes to be aggressive. You know, likes to be positive and you know, and try to dictate the game in some sense of it. But we realize that Toronto right now is in a good moment, although they lost the Canada Cup, the Borges Cup, but you know, they're 5 wins, 4 losses and a draw. They're doing well in the league. They've got some talented players, and we know they're going to be a very dangerous squad to play against. They've got some fantastic talent there. So I think it's going to be a game that a lot of guys are looking forward to. I think a lot of guys like coming to Toronto. I think Toronto kind of, with the public we had, you know, when the club was first formed, and I think that kind of stayed on the map that TFC is amongst some of the best supported teams in the league. So everybody looks forward to playing at BMO and playing in that atmosphere. So it's something that we're all looking forward to. Yeah, it's a special place for me because I did spend some really, really good days here in Toronto. There were tough days some days, but in general, I love my time in Toronto. Great city, great people, and it was a great club to me. So, yeah, you know, that when the whistle blows, the emotions get set aside and you just play the game, you know.
Nick, very quickly, we know that we want to let you get back to your team. We'll just ask you a couple other quick questions and we'll let you go. But when you look at your club there, San Jose, and in the community that they're in, it's so great to see how they band around your team, almost like the Green Bay Packers. It's a community club. And then you look at that Pacific Northwest, Nick. You've played in Europe as a player. Have you ever seen anything like that? Portland, Seattle, Vancouver area when you go in there and play out and inside the stadium?
No, it's a great point. I mean, if you look at Europe, barring some of your big clubs, you know, you'd be hard pressed to go to top divisions and find an average of 20,000 per game at any club in Europe. So, for what Vancouver's done in you know, Montreal, Toronto, Portland, Seattle, particularly, all the teams, they got great attendances. You know, the league is definitely getting better. They're obviously putting more of the infrastructure. The owners are spending more money. The league is definitely going in a forward direction, and it's actually booming. It's scary. I mean, we get calls daily from people wanting professionals in Europe wanting to come and play in North America. So, big interest, and yeah, I would have never expected Seattle-Portland game to draw 60,000 people at CenturyLink Field. It's unbelievable. So
Nick,
the league is definitely growing, and it's good to be part of it, even in the coaching staff, because the league's growing, and hopefully there's more opportunities for coaches coming through for. For Canadian coaches as well, get a chance to work in MLS.
Nick, I can't let you go without asking about Canada and where they're headed, and hopefully in the next World Cup possibly get in there under the direction of Benito Floro. You see Daniil Henry scoring a few goals already this year for TFC. Many guys on the rise that I'm pretty sure you've kept some tabs on. Do you believe in your heart of hearts, Nick, you were in the CSA system, that things are starting to get better once and for all for this country, where some of the real soccer people are starting to take control of some positions that needed to happen a long time ago?
Yeah, I think that, they had that rough year last year, which was a kind of a transitional year for Benito, to try to understand who he had, how he was going to form his team, what was the best tactical setup for the group of players he had. And I think now that he's got a good grasp of that, now he's moving on to, he's got 2 good results away from home, and hopefully for them, it's a good starting point. I think it's important that some of our young players are starting to get some minutes in the MLS. As you mentioned, Daniil's pretty much a regular now at Toronto FC. You got Russ Hybert in Vancouver is getting a lot of minutes. We still need to get more and more players involved and getting games. It's going to help Benito and the rest of the national team. But, the youth teams are doing well. They've got some fine young players coming up, and that's the biggest one. Is for us, it's a transition from youth to senior, where we've always kind of stumbled. So hopefully we'll get more and more of that age group playing at a higher level and getting regular games where it gives Benito more of a chance to pick players that are playing at a level. So we'll be better for that. So we got a long way to go still, but hey, baby steps is always a way to go, and hopefully people support Benito and support the program and just keep building.